The night was cold enough to freeze breath into tiny crystals, and the wind screamed across the endless white fields. Snow fell like shards of glass, cutting through the air. Inside a small wooden cabin, far from any town or city, a man named Eric sat near a weak fire. He was a woodcutter, strong but tired, his hands rough, his eyes hollow from years of living alone. The world had forgotten him, and he had almost forgotten the world. Outside, the storm raged like a beast, shaking the cabin walls. Eric threw another piece of wood into the fire and sighed. He had not seen another human in months, maybe years. He liked the silence, but sometimes the silence felt too heavy, too empty. He closed his eyes for a moment, listening to the fire crackle, when suddenly, knock, knock. The sound was faint, almost lost in the wind. Eric's eyes opened. He waited. Maybe it was just the storm hitting the door. Then it came again, louder this time. Knock, knock, knock. Someone was out there. He stood slowly, reaching for his old hunting knife on the table. No one ever came here. Not in this weather. Not on this frozen planet. He moved to the door, every step careful. The knocking grew weaker. "Who's there?" he shouted over the storm. No answer. He pulled the door open, and the wind almost ripped it off its hinges. A blast of snow and ice hit him in the face. In the white blur of the storm, two small figures collapsed at his feet. They were tiny, shaking, wrapped in thin silver cloth that fluttered like torn foil. For a moment, Eric thought they were human children. But when he lifted one of them, he froze. The skin was pale blue, glowing faintly under the firelight. The eyes, large and glassy, blinked weakly up at him. They weren't human at all. They were aliens. Eric's breath caught. The galaxy had been quiet for years. No one came to this part of space anymore. Why would two alien children be here? Why on this frozen planet? "Help, please." One of them whispered, the voice trembling, soft and strange, almost musical. The other one clung to its sibling, their bodies shaking violently, without thinking. Eric dragged them inside and slammed the door shut. He set them near the fire and wrapped them in his old wool blanket. They were so light, it felt like holding snow itself. Their small hands tried to reach the flames, desperate for warmth. Eric grabbed the kettle and poured hot water into 2 small cups. "Drink," he said, quietly. They looked at him with wide eyes, scared but too weak to resist. Minutes passed. The fire grew stronger, and color returned to their glowing blue faces. Eric finally sat down on the floor beside them. His mind was full of questions, but his heart felt something it hadn't felt in a long time. "Compassion. Double quotes. Where did you come from?" he asked softly. The older twin looked up, lips trembling. "They left us. They said we were useless." Eric frowned. "Who left you?" "The ships," the younger one whispered. "They took the others. They said, we are broken." Tears formed in their glowing eyes. Eric didn't understand what they meant, but the pain in their voices told him enough. Someone had abandoned these children to die in the cold. He looked at them, so fragile, so scared, and something inside him broke. He couldn't let them die. He stood up and added more wood to the fire. "You're safe here," he said. "Oh, no one's going to hurt you." But deep inside, he wasn't sure that was true. The galaxy was full of cruel stories. He had heard of alien empires that destroyed whole planets without care. If these two were running from someone, then whoever that was might come looking. Outside, the wind howled louder, and thunder rolled in the distance. Strange. Metallic thunder that didn't sound natural. Eric stepped to the window and squinted through the storm. For a second, he thought he saw a flash of blue light in the clouds, like an engine flare. "They will find us," the older twin whispered behind him. Eric turned. "Who?" "The hunters," she said. "They always find us. The room fell silent. The fire crackled. Eric felt his stomach twist. He looked at the door, then at the twins. Their small faces were pale with terror. The older one clutched the other's hand tightly. He moved closer, kneeling beside them. "Then we'll make sure they don't," he said quietly. Outside, the storm screamed louder, but inside the cabin, a new kind of fire was burning a human one. The kind that refused to let the weak die alone. Eric didn't know who these alien twins were or what danger was coming. But one thing was clear tonight: he wouldn't let them freeze. Not while he still had breath. And somewhere far above the clouds, something massive moved in the sky, scanning for life. The storm wasn't just weather anymore. It was cover. It was the beginning of something that would shake the stars. The storm had not slowed, but inside the cabin, the fire burned bright. The two alien twins sat close together, wrapped in blankets. Their small blue hands trembled, not just from the cold, but from fear. Eric sat on a wooden chair, sharpening his old hunting knife. The sound of metal against stone filled the silence. His eyes kept drifting toward the door. Every gust of wind made him tighten his grip. He wasn't sure what he had done. Bringing alien strangers into his home could mean death. But when he looked at the two small faces, fragile and innocent, he knew he couldn't have done anything else. The older twin finally spoke, her voice soft like falling snow. "You shouldn't have helped us, human." Eric looked up. "Why?" "Hey, they will come for us," she whispered. "They always do." Kirak frowned. "Who are they?" Before she could answer, a low hum came from outside. It was faint, but deep, like thunder trapped in metal. The younger twin gasped and pressed close to her sister. "They've found us," she said, her voice shaking. Eric stood and walked to the small window. He pushed aside the frosted glass and peered into the storm. At first, he saw nothing but white snow swirling in chaos. Then a dark shape moved, something too smooth, too perfect to be nature. A floating metal sphere glowing red through the blizzard, scanning the ground. His heart pounded. "Drones," he muttered. "You're being hunted." The twins nodded silently. Eric stepped back, thinking fast. He grabbed his coat, his axe, and an old blaster rifle from the corner. It had been years since he'd used it, but tonight he might need it again. "You tundered the floor," he said quickly. Now the twins hesitated. "You'll die," the older one said. Eric gave a small, tired smile. "Then I'll die warm." He lifted a wooden board and motioned for them to hide. They slipped under, curling close together, their faint glow hidden by darkness. Eric replaced the board and kicked a rug over it. He turned off the lamp and crouched by the door, listening. The hum grew louder. Shadows moved outside. A beam of red light swept across the window, melting the frost. Eric held his breath. Then bang. The door shook violently. The old wood cracked, but didn't break. Eric aimed his rifle at the entrance. "Go away," he shouted. A robotic voice answered, cold and sharp. "Human life form detected. You harbor fugitives. Surrender them, or face termination." Eric's finger tightened on the trigger. "I don't know what you're talking about." The voice paused. "Lies detected." Final warning. The door burst open. A blast of wind and snow filled the cabin as two metal drones floated in, their red sensors glowing like eyes. They scanned the room, turning slowly toward him. Eric fired. The first shot hit one in the lens, shattering it into sparks. The other drone fired back, a beam slicing across the wall and setting it aflame. The fire roared, filling the room with light and smoke. Eric rolled behind the table, firing again. The bullet hit metal, denting it but not breaking through. He cursed and swung his axe, cleaving through the nearest drone as it dove toward him. The machine fell to the floor, twitching and sparking. The second drone shot again, grazing his shoulder. Pain burned through him, but Eric didn't stop. He grabbed a burning log from the fireplace and hurled it. The drone caught fire, spinning wildly before crashing through the window and exploding in the snow. Silence, only the crackling of the fire remained. The room was half in ruins. Smoke filled the air. Eric leaned against the wall, bleeding, panting, shaking. The floor creaked. The twins crawled out, their eyes wide with shock. "You fought them," the older one said softly. "For us." Eric looked at her, breathing hard. "Yeah," he said, his voice rough. "That's what humans do." The younger twin ran to him, pressing her tiny hand against his wound. A faint blue light spread from her palm, and the pain faded. Eric looked down in surprise. The skin began to close, leaving only a faint scar. What did you do?" he asked. "She healed you," the older twin said. "But now they'll know. They'll sense the energy." Eric frowned. "Then we need to move." He opened a small trunk and pulled out an old map of the forest. "There's a cave in the North Ridge," he said. "Deep, cold, hidden. We can make it there before dawn, if we leave now." The twins nodded. The younger one took his hand, her fingers cold but gentle. "Why are you helping us, human?" she asked quietly. Eric looked at the broken door, at the burning wreck of his cabin, then at their frightened faces. "Because someone has to," he said, "and because once, long ago, someone helped me too." He kicked snow over the fire, grabbed his coat, and stepped into the storm. The twins followed close behind, their small shapes glowing faintly in the white darkness. Behind them, the cabin collapsed into flames. Above, unseen in the clouds, a massive ship turned slowly, scanning the land. The hunt had just begun,